What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to a special trade deadline edition of This Week in Baseball presented by Diamond Digest. I'm your host, Jordan Lazowski. We've got a huge crew on tonight. Taviz, Sam, Steven, Joe, Joseph, a six-person crew on. I think it's the biggest one we've had, probably since the last trade deadline. I feel like we kind of expanded at that point in time. But with so much to talk about at the trade deadline, plenty to talk about and plenty of different experts from plenty of different teams. We'll talk a little bit about the standings, but really get right into the trade deadline, talk about what's happened today, how that affects the season moving forward for a lot of the fringe playoff teams, as well as the guaranteed playoff teams as well. But before we go anywhere, since Tavi is a new member to Diamond Digest, not only the podcast, but Diamond Digest in total, wanted to give her a chance to introduce herself to all the listeners.
Yeah, hi, it's Tavi. I live in Los Angeles. I'm a Dodgers fan. I've done work with sports unions in the past on their social media, but now I'm just kind of more as a fan. I've written for about 2 years in baseball, in and out, and looking forward to sharing some opinions and hearing some interesting opinions. And in my day job, I actually work to restore historical baseball equipment for a prop house. So most days I am elbow deep in like some really old shin guards, or like my hands are usually really like covered in dye and gross. So so I'm actually clean today. It's nice. I took a shower for you guys. You should feel special.
I appreciate it.
Much appreciated, all virtually and everything. But that's actually a really cool job. I did not know that was your full-time job. That's really awesome.
I love it so much. Of course, it's like every job, but has its frustrations. And I don't just do baseball, but that was what I was hired to do. They have an extensive historical baseball collection. They did work on 8 Men Out, A League of Their Own, the original and the pilot, 42, 61, most basically any big historical baseball, The Sandlot. I'm going to quickly plug my TikTok. I actually found one of the Sandlot balls, test balls that they made with Babe Ruth's signature on it. So that was pretty cool. TikTok's the same user as my Twitter. But yeah, it's a really cool place. It still has its frustrations, especially today when I was trying to, here's a good segue, follow all of the trade rumors. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Coming through, Sam.
What? I was looking up the TikTok. I don't know what you guys were doing.
I'm not as clean on those. Don't worry.
Well, Tabby, welcome again. Excited to have you. Excited to have someone with such a cool experience outside of just writing. Again, adding to our very big but also very talented team here. So we're excited to have you and excited to talk about the trade deadline. And already first podcast on, you're better at segues and transitions than I ever was or ever will be. We'll get into the trade deadline right after taking a look quickly at the standings, because it will kind of inform what we talk about throughout the trade deadline. In the AL Central, the Minnesota Twins still have about a game and a half or a game lead, depending on what happens throughout the rest of the night, over the Cleveland Guardians and White Sox. In the AL East, the Yankees, no surprises there. AL West, same thing. Houston, no surprise as the leaders. In the National League, the Mets, a 3-game lead over the Braves. Again, subject to change after games this evening. Milwaukee Brewers hold a slight lead over the St. Louis Cardinals in the NL Central. And in the NL West, Dodgers, no surprise. 11.5-game lead. San Diego pretty far behind there. But they are kind of the talk of the trade deadline, regardless of where they might stand within the division itself. I guess I'll open the floor to maybe our Dodgers fans to start. You know, the Juan Soto piece is obviously the biggest piece of the trade deadline. I think from there, everything kind of builds off. It doesn't make sense to start anywhere else. If you're a Dodgers fan, how do you react to that situation? What does that do for you to now say, well, in a season of 19 divisional games, I got to see Juan Soto 19 times, 4 at-bats. You got to see him more.
Thing. We actually get to see him now. You know, we get to see him play. We didn't get to see him very often because, you know, blackouts and things like that. Look, I am a fan of collecting all the Infinity Stones, right? Like I want everyone in the Dodgers. That's what every team wants. They want everyone there. But we also know what happens when you get all the Infinity Stones, right? Bad things. I think he was a want and not a need. I think with James Outman coming up and going 7 for 8 in his first 2 games as a Dodger, his first at bat was a home run. We've got Chris Taylor waiting in the wings. We've got May. We've got Gratterall. We've got Bueller. We've got Trinan coming back. I like to think that we're saving our cash for Trey Turner's extension. They had said pretty publicly that they weren't going to extend him during the season. And Dave Roberts has dropped hints the whole time that he likes the guys that we're with. Of course, Juan Soto would have been a great get. Am I frustrated that he went to the Padres? Yeah, but it's also the Padres. So let's hope he stays Juan Soto and doesn't let their team doctors get a hold of him.
Yeah, like the baseball fan of me is excited to see Juan Soto more often. I am terrified as a Dodgers fan to see Juan Soto more often. I don't want to do this, but I think the Padres are one injury away from completely collapsing. They traded away all their depth, their farm system's barren. One injury to Tatis, to Machado, to Soto, to Cronenworth, any of the arms in that rotation, this team is going to fold like a house of cards.
Tatis is already fragile right now, too.
At full strength, these two teams are going to have some of the best series in baseball.
Yeah, and I think when you view it from San Diego's perspective, too, you almost have to do things like this every year. You almost have to try and buy everything you possibly can to the deadline because you essentially have to put together a 100-win team right now if you're going to try and compete in the division. I mean, what they're 59-46. That's probably first place in at least 2 or 3 other divisions. Yeah, at least both AL and NL Central. Like, that's good enough to be in first place in a lot of places, and you're in 11 and a half games back right now.
It took 106 wins to take the divisions from the Dodgers last year.
Exactly.
You have to be perfect.
I mean, and look where the Giants are right now. It took literally all of their veterans performing at top notch with no injuries, and I think maybe like a blood goat sacrifice for that to happen, right? The other thing I'm looking at is that the Padres have a decent farming system, right? I saw somewhere they fell to like 27th or 28th with the trades that they made. So like they are selling their future down the line to try and win now. I don't think they're looking at 2022. I think they're looking at 2023, which is very reasonable. You got Tatis back at full strength for a full season, hopefully, if he stays off the motorcycle. And you've got Machado for a few more years. You've got all these pieces that are lining up. I think they're going to threaten this year. I think they're going to try some things out this year. I think they have eyes on 2023, which is smart. But they don't have their eyes on 2028 or 2029, that's for sure.
I'm on the Fangraphs farm ranking real quick because I just wanted to affirm what you were saying there. And yeah, Padres dropped. I don't know where they were before. I'd assume way higher than this. But now they're at 25, smushed between the Tigers and the Phillies. And the Nats jumped all the way to 8. And I think they said that if you included Gore, who recently graduated, they would be 5. Yeah. So
I think he did. I think he was in the trade. At least I saw.
He was. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And it ends up being Voit and not Hosmer.
Yeah. And that Nat system was barren before this deal and jumps all the way to top 10. So
I mean, if you're the Nationals, you sell out for that 2019 series.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, surprise, another generational talent that you can, obviously they shouldn't have traded Juan Soto. You trade Juan Soto, you get a core of a team ideally for 5+ years.
They're also getting new ownership, so maybe that's part of it. Maybe they're kind of wanting to clean house. Maybe they're wanting to, I can't remember where that deal is right now, but maybe they're kind of setting them up to be like, new franchise, new team.
Yeah, but aside from Mackenzie Gore, I think every piece in that trade is older than Juan Soto. Juan Soto sets you up better.
There's everybody else, and then there's Juan Soto, right? Marcus Stroman said it. Like he's the guy. He's the guy, and he is the guy that you sell your farm system for.
Okay, Robert Hassel III is 20.
2.
What do you mean? He was born in 2001.
No, 2 people, Gore and Hassel.
But
we're going to be getting to the draft class where I'm older than all the players, and I'm not ready for that midlife crisis.
It doesn't get any better, I promise.
As long as Rich Hill's still going, man, we're gonna keep Rich Hill kicking around the league, right?
Absolutely. He can never retire.
It's like Jamie Moyer's 10-year retirement tour.
Yeah, I will say, Steven, that doesn't get any better as I've gone through it and been like, especially when the White
That's
Sox
what
were
I've heard.
rebuilding, like seeing guys like at that age and becoming that age, and you're like, oh, I'm about their age too. Oh, now I'm older than them, and then it really
20
hurts you when you.
I'm 25. Padres need some farm system depth. My
Yeah.
phone number
Then you
is
start-
available.
I'm
Then you
25
start
as
to
well.
see
I'm
guys-
still useful.
Can
I
You start to
am
see
not
guys
in
your
that
age.
situation.
You see guys your age, and you're like, "Can I throw 90?" And then it's
It's
not
like, can I
gonna
even
happen.
lift my arm anymore?
I
I
can throw
throw 90
55.
down. I can throw 90 like down a canyon, like terminal
And
velocity.
I'm gonna need you geezers to stop talking.
You know what? I'm good. I had to mention it because I realized it this year, and I'll make this point and then shut up. As a coach this year, I was coaching high school. We had a kid who was like in talks to potentially get drafted. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, I can't imagine being that good at baseball, and I can't imagine the fact that I'm now coaching kids who are that good at baseball. It's wild. But
Yeah,
anywho,
congratulations. That's a
Did he
big
get
deal.
picked?
Yeah.
he did not get picked. He's honoring his commitment to Notre Dame. It was Esteban
Ah.
Moreno.
I
If you've
mean,
heard
he's
that
got
name.
time. He's got so much time.
Yeah.
They're not
As-
going to stop looking at him just because he went to college.
No, which is it's just cool to see that process for him. And as an outsider, obviously, I'm sure he was stressed as all heck throughout that process. But anywho, back to the trade deadline and a bunch of players that are younger than me and will continue to be younger than me. Outside of the Juan Soto piece, I guess we'll start with everyone's winners and losers from the deadline. And then I do want to hear everybody's favorite trade. I'm going to start with Joe and just say, hey, one winner, one loser. And then we'll kind of add beyond that as well.
So winner, and I mean, I'm a little biased, but I think the Yankees did a very good job. Obviously, with all the Soto rumors, there were rumors that they were going to give up Volpe, Peraza, and Dominguez, and if they sold out for that. But they addressed all their needs: outfield, starter, reliever. Even though up until the Montgomery trade, I thought they did really well. They kept their future, and I don't think they did enough to win, but I think they definitely did enough to cover all the bases and kind of say that we tried. Losers, definitely the Nats. And I just think, obviously, Soto is the modern day Ted Williams, and all of us, when we kind of saw the initial return package for what they were getting, we were like, all right, where's the rest of it? And I'm going to give loser junior to the Padres because they have to pay $43 million of Hosmer's salary as he plays for the Red Sox. And I mean, you see teams buy out players and have to pay him a couple million here or there, but $43 million for a guy to not play on your team, I mean, that just sucks knowing that your team is trying to trade you away and you don't want to leave and they're paying to play against you. And it just sucks.
Those 2 hours of suspense of Eric Hosmer just
That was
holding the world
hilarious.
in his hand.
I would
It's
have
the
bought an
most
Eric
power
Hosmer
he's had.
jersey if he did it.
I mean, I was thinking, imagine they didn't get rid of him. It's like him in the locker room, and that
Like,
trade
hey,
doesn't
guys.
go through, and he's just sitting there like
Yeah.
that's the most hated man in California.
But then
But it
he
was
plays
also
like Juan
like-
Soto.
That's
For
such
the
a
second
that's such a
half.
crappy position to put him in, though,
Right, I
right? Because
know.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not his
they
fault at all.
know what his no trade teams are. They know what they are, and they still went through with it. That to me is just tacky.
I mean, there were
don't know,
rumors,
like-
too,
His
that
wife was expecting too. You know what I mean? It's not an easy thing to move in that situation.
Right.
there were
And so-
rumors too because he's like covered by Boris that they did that on purpose to then negotiate more money. Because usually, if they push a team through with a no trade clause, that they usually ask for more money,
Yeah. I
and the
wouldn't put
goal
that
was
past
for him to get more money.
Scott
I
Boras
wouldn't
was
put
playing
that
chess
past
with
him at all.
himself.
I was gonna say, like, what's the point of like adding Hosmer? Because like he definitely worsens your value on the return if you're the Nationals. And then the Padres are willing to do the same deal with Voit. So it wasn't like, we feel like we're giving you too much. Let's just take Hosmer to try and like negate some of that. I never like looking back on it, it's kind of weird how they include him in that deal, and then we're just so willing to like throw it to the wayside for Voit.
I
It's
think
one
they
so
had
you gotta do
it.
that.
So
It's weird.
charismatic, man. How did he get away with that at first, man?
I
Yeah,
think
It's
they had
crazier
their
that the
foot on his
Nats
back, and they were getting rid of
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, they
hell
were
or
just
high
like
water.
anyway.
Like
Yeah.
I thought they
It's
were going to give.
crazier that the Nats like wanted to take his contract and
I
not get rid
know.
of Corbin's. Like the whole trade rumor was that they were going to get rid of Corbin with Soto and like kind of clear out the books, and then the fact that they were willing to take him at first and have Corbin on the books and Strasburg on the books, and it's like
Yeah, that's
you're
a lot of
tying up all
scouting.
these money for guys who are just like not worth it.
I'm
It's
even
not
mad
Ted
that
Lerner's money.
That infamous Athletic
Yeah.
article said that the Dodgers were going to take the Strasburg contract to get Soto. Like they were going to
I mean,
dump
like
some big
that's
contract with it.
that makes more sense where it's like if you're going to get a guy with this much control and then lock him up for the future and he's 23, like you've got to take one of these bad contracts. And the fact they didn't give up either one and gave up Bell, like it doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, do you think Mike Rizzo, like not opposite Mike Rizzo, do you think Ted Lerner cares what's on his books right now? It's not going to be his money in like
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
however
another
long.
thing
Yeah.
where like these new owners kind of just wanted these trades to get through, and it's like, well, we didn't make these trades, we'll figure it out, and just kind of play it off when they get in there.
I don't know. The Dodgers like just so annoyed me. It's like it's the one team that can get Juan Soto with like for like a somewhat reasonable price, like comparable to what the Padres ended up paying for him, and still have a good farm system.
I was gonna say because I think the offer I saw was Dustin May, Gavin Lux, Bobby Miller, Andy Pages, and Vargas.
Yeah, no way in hell we're doing that trade.
How
right?
did you not take that deal?
That team is
Like
so
that-
good still.
That sounds like a
Wow.
normal deal. Like that sounds
Yeah.
way
Right.
closer to what it
Yeah.
should be.
That
And you
that
still
sounds
have
yeah.
Diego Cartaya in the system. You still have Ryan Pepio in the system. It's still a top 10 system
Corbett Vivas,
after
we
that.
have we have a ton of players coming up. I think that's why I don't think the Dodgers were in it seriously, because I mean the Dodgers are always going to get run by as like, oh, the expensive team is going to buy people. I don't know how serious they were in on it, because again, he was a want and not a need, especially with Outman coming up. And as of right now, at least the last time I checked, we were spanking the Giants 5-0 in the third inning. So like they're gonna do okay with the.
Why are
current
we
team.
comparing Outman to Juan Soto?
Oh, I'm not comparing.
Higher on
It.
base
I'm just
percentage.
saying that
Higher on base percentage.
Well, if he's got a higher on base percentage than literally the whole league right now. He's went 7 for 8. But I'm just saying, like, we've got guys who are coming up. No, you're right. Is Outman comparable to Juan Soto? Not right now. That's for sure. He may be the guy. He may not be. I don't know. He's played 2 games. But we don't have holes is what I'm getting at. We don't have holes in the outfield except for maybe Cody Bellinger at the bat. But like we don't have that need the way other players do. So I don't think the Dodgers were ever seriously going to put a package together that took some of their youngest players and sent them off to another team.
Juan Soto is worth it no matter the price. No, that's what it comes down to.
Not if you're the Dodgers, maybe.
He's not even come near his prime yet. You pay whatever it takes to get Juan Soto.
You give
I
up.
feel like that's tough to say for like bigger teams where like I'm thinking about if you're the Yankees and you got to pay this guy, like Judge is gone. You're not going to pay both of them to play right field. So Judge is gone at the deadline. Then you lose your number one shortstop, Jason Dominguez, probably 2 pitchers. And it's like, yeah, great. He's one of the best hitters probably ever. But every time we lose in the playoffs, it's always because we need another starting pitcher or something in the bullpen. Like, I don't need a guy who's going to walk 3 times in a series and be like, damn, this is awesome. Wish we had another guy who walked like this. Like,
I was going to say,
I know he's good, but it's like you got to figure out what your problems are. And if your problem is not that you don't get on base, it's like, who cares how much he's worth?
the Giants
Like,
did
he's
not
not
win
gonna
a
fit your team.
ring with Barry Bonds. So I see where you're coming from on that one. It's more than just a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, again, collect all the Infinity Stones. I want all the players. If we got Juan Soto, I'd probably be happy. But the Dodgers are playing to win the division year after year after year after year after year. I don't think we have and yes, we blow through luxury tax sometimes, but like that's not sustainable long term. We want to maybe one of our players was traded for cash considerations. I like to think that's Trey considerations. We only have half a season left on him right now. I'd love to see him be here longer. We just didn't need him, and to sell off, especially so much pitching when I love Kershaw to death, but he is not going to get younger. And Bueller is a great pitcher, but he hasn't quite lived up to that vaulted potential that he's been yet. Be it injury, be it the sort of thing, not necessarily because he doesn't have the talent, but he just hasn't been that guy yet that Kershaw was going to pass the baton to. So selling all of our pitching out just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, a lot of
that's
people.
what they wanted.
Side note,
people-
what
And it's
team is
such a
cash considerations on?
Huh?
What team is
It's-
cash considerations on? Been traded all kinds of times today.
Most recently with Seattle.
Oh,
Yeah.
Seattle.
Or was that player to be named later? I thought it was cash considerations. It looks like the player to be named later. Then maybe not. Maybe it wasn't cash. It was cash in one report, but
Plus, it's such a small like chance that this ever happens. But with a guy like team control like that, like there's a chance he doesn't re-sign with your team. So for you to like give up all these prospects and then for him to test free agency and make like way more than you're ready to offer, like you just wasted away your future for 3 years. Like
If 15
Yeah.
doesn't happen
45
often,
isn't
but,
enough.
like-
especially when we have Mookie Betts for 11 now, longer, and Outman's under control for how long? And again, I'm not saying he's going to be the same, but he's definitely proven himself that he can make it in the big leagues.
Yeah, I was gonna
Like,
say
He
kind
could
of.
be. He could honestly be the next Aquino. We don't know. I'm not taking this hot start. I love it, but I'm not taking this hot start at face value.
No, it's adrenaline right now, yeah. But
And
There-
like, if you think Boris isn't going to tell Soto to at least listen to offers when his time is up, like you're crazy.
Okay,
He's
that-
going to listen to
This
everyone.
entire
and
negotiation is Scott
Boris
Boras
doesn't. Go ahead.
playing chess with himself.
That's what everything.
Yeah, I mean, when like
everything ends
5
up
of the
being
guys
that.
in the trade are his guys.
Yeah,
Like,
everything
okay,
ends up
so
being
if we
that at the
include
deadline. Basically.
Hosmer initially, we can get the Padres to give him more money.
Well, I mean, that's also why Boris clients don't traditionally do well with the Dodgers because they don't play that game. So,
Any
I
Boris
was gonna
clients on
say,
Atlanta by chance?
who
A
was
little
Will
while
Smith's
ago-
agent?
a little
Atlanta
while
Will
ago, I
Smith,
remember-
Astro Will Smith. I mean,
I remember like a lot of people were comparing. I'm gonna kind of go back to a point here when you're talking about like whether you don't know if Soto's gonna be a free agent. A lot of people like when like a little while ago, I felt like we're comparing this to like Arenado or Goldschmidt. We're looking back on it, they're like can't miss guys that you could have traded for that really helped. The Cardinals looking back on now, but that those were like guys who you were gonna trade for, you were gonna extend them, so that hurt their value. They didn't really get a lot back in retrospect for Goldschmidt that you really like. I mean, at the time they were, like guys who you thought could have promise. Carson Kelly had a lot of upside when they traded him, but looking back on it, there's just not that many guys there. Whereas with Soto, not only are you taking on the risk of you're gonna have to extend him if you want to get 17 years of him, how many years he gets, but you're gonna have to sell your entire farm for him. So it's a different ball game, and it's really one we have never seen, or at least I've never seen before. I guess the closest would be like Chris Sale, but I mean, even that was like such a unicorn thing, and this is like even more of a unicorn thing. It's so hard to say.
Yeah, because Chris Sale was like the first time, I think, in 10, 15 years that the number one prospect in baseball had been dealt.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But it won him a World Series, so
It did. Yeah, I mean, it's worth it. I'm not saying Soto won't be worth it for the Padres. It's just you're working in a different ball game.
I feel like
and
the
then
Chris.
Laz, you can attest to this more, but would you say Moncada was worth it?
Looking back at that trade, I feel like that it's been Moncada and Kopech. That trade's been worth it. It's an inability for this team to build around.
It's a
some
better
of the key
return than
pieces
like
that-
Gallo and Odor, which
Right,
is like what else on the
it's-
table.
well,
You-
Gallo's
if
a
you-
Dodger now, so
That's true.
Yeah, if you look back at some of the trades that were potentially on the table for those types of, or for Chris Sale, even Adam Eaton, Jose Quintana, when those trades were coming around, like what they ended up with was a lot better than a lot of the alternatives. So it's when the point being, when you make those types of trades, you're getting the guaranteed thing, and you're hoping everything else works out because all you have to do is sign off on the wrong trade, and that looks terrible.
Tatis.
But anywho, so winners and losers beyond Joe's thoughts. Sam, winners and losers on your end.
The Seattle one.
They just tore your heart out with Luis Castillo.
They tore my heart out with Luis Castillo. But they go from a fringe team to a team that I think has a good shot of beating anyone in the playoffs aside from the Yankees. And the Yankees might randomly lose in the ALDS because they got hot at the wrong time. That's always a possibility. And then obviously you're giving up like all these shortstops, but like they just signed JP Crawford long term. Even if they're better than him, they're stuck with Crawford. They didn't give up much. And then losers, obviously the Nationals lost big. I'm going to call the Padres a big loser here. Not because of the Juan Soto trade, obviously, but they gave up the 8th best prospect in their system for Brandon Drury. And they gave up
They always do that. That was those super random deals.
And then then they trade like a bunch of other guys for Josh Hader, who's been like not that good this year.
They don't have the pieces in that bullpen around him going 2 innings in the playoffs, which is his kryptonite.
Yeah, like
if you force Josh Hader to go 2 innings in the playoffs, congratulations.
The Nationals are World Series champions.
The Braves are World Series champions.
It snowballs from there, yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Josh Hader should have a bunch of honorary World Series rings.
Oh my gosh.
Oh god. So Steven, winners and losers.
All right, I've been waiting for this. Winners, I'm gonna go a little bit not unconventional really. The Reds, I would say their goal was to sell, and sell they did. They got a lot of I don't want to steal your thunder, Sam, so I'm glad I went after you. They got a lot of really good prospects. The Castillo return was incredible. I mean, that's like what the White Sox got back for their guys, comparably. And you really don't see that now. You really don't see a team buy that high on a player like Castillo, who's got 1.5 years of control, who's a very good pitcher, but that's definitely more than what people were expecting. And then you look like at what they got for Tyler Mahle. Really good return. Mahle's a good pitcher, but I mean, they got a guy in the cusp of top 100. They got 2 really good depth pieces. And they already traded Sonny Gray to the Twins in the offseason for what's his name, Chase Petty, his stuff is fantastic. We'll see
those
how it goes.
2027 Reds are gonna be unbeatable.
They have a lot of arms there that are really that are looking really nice. Then the Drury trade was really good.
Don't trade Green before the window.
Their goal was clear. They went in it, they wanted to sell, and they got a lot of really good prospects. Their farm value catapulted. I'd say they certainly have one of the better farms in baseball, and they've always been in that range, but they always have guys up there who are near graduating, and they always just end up fluttering between like top 10, 15, top 10, 15. Yeah, but they're solidly top 10 right
What's the number one farm system right now?
Depends on who you ask, I would say.
Yeah. Probably the Rays. Isn't it always
yeah, it's usually the Rays. Rays are reliable.
That's a safe answer.
Yeah. Oh, it's ever fluctuating.
It's like there's 3 that just kind of trade.
Yeah.
Maybe this year's the Dodgers. Maybe this year's the Rays.
It's always all over the place.
It's going to stay the Dodgers because we didn't go after Soto.
Yeah.
Andy Pajes is going to be a 110 OPS plus guy, and you know it.
He's better, man. But for losers, I was debating on because there weren't that many guys traded. Or this sounded like a more meager deadline. I felt like teams were more protective of their players or prospects. And speaking of being protective of prospects, I'm gonna put the Mets there. I really don't get what they were doing. They got some good bullpen pieces, got some good depth pieces. Say what you will about the Vogelbach trade. I don't think that's gonna hurt them in the long run too much. But this is a team who's they're really fighting with the Braves for the division, and they're a very good team, and they could make a World Series push. They get hot at the right time, and they really just did not do as much as they needed to. They shored up the bullpen. They got some decent hitting. They got some more decent hitting options. I like Darren Ruff. I like Vogelbach. I like Givens a lot. I watched him. He's really good. But they needed to do more, and it felt like they were just really wanted to hang on to this farm system, which I don't blame them for doing, but you have to know when the time is to trade some of these guys, and this is the time for them. I mean, they're going to be really good for a little while, I would say, but this team's built on a lot of really good free agent signings, and this is the time to go for it if you need to. And I just felt like they needed to do more than they did, and it looked like they were trending towards.
I'm going to push
Steve
back.
Cohen said he wanted the Mets to be Dodgers East, and it's kind of in that transitional period when the new ownership group took over for the Dodgers, and they started kind of slowly building up that farm system to where we always have a good system no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where they're kind of at right now, is they want to build the system the way the Dodgers did. So that way you have the prospects to go get a Mookie Betts, a Scherzer, and Trey Turner, and still have a top 10 farm system. I think they're playing the long game here.
I think where that goes is really from the bottom, though. You need to have a good system to do that, and I think the Mets is good, but I think as long as you have those in place, you can continue to build those. And I'm not saying they needed to sell a Beatty or Alvarez or someone like that, but I'm just saying that it felt like even with guys like Vientos, like trading one of these prospects is not going to kill you in the long run. And comparably, you want to win at the big league level more. It felt like they needed to do more for me, so that was it for me. And then one trade I really liked, I'll just throw it to Matt.
Alternatively, they just got the best. They were in the lead in the division without the best pitcher on the planet. They just got the best pitcher on the planet back.
Touche.
I don't think they have finally have the DeGrom Scherzer 1-2. And they were winning without that. They were winning without either of them. So they have both.
That's the White Sox way, though, right there. You're speaking like the best addition we could have gotten to the trade deadline is getting healthy.
Exactly.
Which
Jacob
doesn't
DeGrom
work.
will throw 2 months.
I get what you're saying, but
he'll be electrifying for 2 months and then tears UCL, and then he'll never be the same.
Yeah, August to September. Let's just hope there's a little bit there for October, because there's going to be some fun pitching matchups in the postseason if that's true.
Steven, you've got the answer for this. What happened with the Happ and Contreras stuff? Was Happ's price just like way too high?
That was one of my
I've been deliberating on this for I don't know. It was really shocking to me when I figured out they weren't going to get traded, because I figured as it was nearing, what they were going to do with Contreras was just take the best offer they can find, as long as it's better than the qualifying offer. Just take it at the end of it, at the final hour. And that did not happen. And they had a press conference where, Hoyer basically said, we just didn't get an offer we felt was right, which in pretty vague answer is what you were expecting to say. But I don't know. It's so hard to say. I can't imagine if they got an offer that's better than what you'd get for the qualifying offer, they wouldn't have taken it if they weren't planning on extending him. And it certainly doesn't sound like they are. I'm not really sure how that trended. They certainly, like I said before, this deadline, it certainly felt like a little bit more. There was more caution from teams. There was less action. Last year they traded 6 guys in the span of 2 days. This year they traded a couple of relievers, and then they were able. That's basically it. That's basically their key selling points were those few relievers. But it was not the seller's market that they thought it was, I guess. I think that kind of trended towards Happ as well, where their asking price was really high, and they were like, if we don't get it, we can just keep him. It's no big deal. So that I understood, but Contreras was a really big shock. I'm not sure. I had to reiterate. It felt like, if they got, it would shock me if they got an offer better than the qualifying offer, or better than where that pick will end up, that they wouldn't have taken it. It would shock me if that is the case, but you never really know.
Yeah, I could have sworn he was a Met.
Yeah, I really thought he was going to get. I thought they were just going to bring down the price and just take whichever deal is better than the qualifying offer, which felt like what they were going to do with Chris Bryant at the end of it. He was in the lineup at the final game last year, and he got traded right when the deadline hit. But yeah, no, he's just staying. He's here to stay. It makes the last game at Wrigley, that Pirates game, a little bit funny to look back on now, but it's what happens. I really like the returns they got for all the guys that they dealt, but I don't know. I don't think it's a huge missed opportunity, but you definitely got to wonder what could have been if they sold them, or what offers they were getting for them. Speaking
of guys the Cubs traded, they traded David Robertson to the Phillies. The Phillies got a lot.
Yeah, they were really going. They had a sneaky deadline.
They paid a lot, and they got a lot.
Their best move, I think, was Brandon Marsh, and I'm not even kidding.
Oh, yeah.
They need defensive help out there.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, that entire rotation's ERA was higher than their FIP. Horrible.
No. Sounds about right.
The outfield was abysmal, too. Moniak couldn't hit for anything. Harper's obviously gone. Schwarber's all right. Castellanos stinks.
You can't have Schwarber and Castellanos playing defense at the corners for a whole season. Yeah. That's just a nightmare. If I'm a pitcher,
and then a center fielder who can't hit,
I'm praying. Yeah, and then that, it's icing on the cake.
So just saying, with Castellanos, when the Reds let like everybody leave this past offseason, everyone called them crazy, and then oh no, none of those guys have been above average, except I don't think any of them have actually been like amazing like they were last year.
Castellanos waited a while to sign too.
Yeah, and then
like
also
having
Syndergaard,
one tool only gets you so far.
Syndergaard is just such a good pickup for them.
I agree. He seems like the perfect kind of like mid back end guy that they can work around because they love these like kind of contact manager and sinker ballers. And
Which seems
Syndergaard really
weird.
fits that mold. Even with it's just how it goes. Even with the velocity drop, he's gonna fill out that spot perfectly. You don't need an ace. You got Nolan, Wheeler. You have guys to fill it out. You just need a guy who can shore it up for a playoff push because they're competing with two big teams in the NL.
And even if you make the wild card, that's still not a bad 1, 2, 3 to throw in a 3-game series either.
Oh, for sure.
I'd take that over quite a few teams still in the race.
I mean, they are a sneaky wild card contender right now. Because like if they can get in, I think they have a really good shot at like making it far in the postseason.
Yeah, they've always had a solid rotation. It's just a matter of getting to the playoffs, which they just haven't been able to do.
Right.
Yeah, like it's a team built for the playoffs. They just can't get there.
Tavi, winners and losers. What are you thinking?
Well, my facetious answer is the biggest loser is Dodger Himbo Twitter because we lost Mitch White to the Toronto Blue Jays, and I hope Canada appreciates his beautiful cheekbones. But honestly, like, I'm an NL West girl. I'm gonna know the most about that. The Diamondbacks and the Rockies. The better the Padres get, I think the Rockies didn't do any trades. I think hold on, I was looking it up. I think one trade with Arizona and like the Kansas City Royals. I just think they all looked at that and kind of went, oh, okay. So it's going to be, Dodgers, Padres for a while. Giants are going to, pop in now and then. And I think that their ownership needs to get serious about winning or they're going to race to the bottom. So I think anytime that the NL West big three get stronger, they suffer. And I think it was not a great day for them. Like a sneaky winner. I mean, I think all of your choices are great, but like, as a personal thing, I think Joey Gallo won today. He's just getting out of New York, right?
Honestly,
like,
though.
Yeah.
He was what?
I slandered that man till the end of the earth, but when I read that interview,
was the reason he couldn't walk around in the streets of Manhattan.
Yeah, I'm the reason he's staying home. But I mean, when I read that interview, like, you just got to feel bad.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hold out on Gallo for this year for them to ban the shift because I thought like that's the problem and that would help him. But like his swing decision is just so bad and like it just wasn't working. So I'm glad and I hope he figures it out.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen Dodger Twitter like, come get street tacos. It's not gonna happen, but like, people are excited to see him. I think New York was just a bad fit. Like sometimes good players in a bad. It's not like the Yankees are a bad team or like clearly you can have success there as a player, but sometimes just like it doesn't fit. It doesn't work right. You don't mesh with your coaches or like you get advice that is good advice, but not your advice. That sort of thing. Who knows what it was? Maybe it really was the beard. Like. Maybe Dumbo needed the feather to fly, that sort of thing. I'm excited to see what he does. People are already like comparing him to like hopefully have a Max Muncy-esque turnaround, like when we got him from the A's. However, Max Muncy-esque turnaround isn't happening for Max Muncy right now, although he is mashing against the Giants because no one hates the Giants more than Max Muncy. But I want to see what Gallo does in a new environment. We've heard nothing but praise about the locker room environment in the Dodgers right now. Freddie and Trey and Mookie and Kershaw and like it's just good vibes all around. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough to kind of reset him and let his beard grow out. And I think he was done with New York and New York was done with him and he needed to get out. So he got to trade for the other potential. I mean, I want a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. As a baseball historian, I want that so bad. But my God, will Twitter be insufferable? Like
my dad's bank
insufferable.
account wants the Dodgers-Yankees World Series.
I want the Mariners to go to the World Series so bad.
I get it. I get it.
They have the future for that.
They just traded it all away for Luis Castillo. Pay attention. I think the real winners here are the Texas Rangers. They traded away like no production from Joey Gallo for like a reasonable prospect haul. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
So,
$500 million they're spending on that middle infield for a lot of production.
I mean, here's the
Yeah.
thing about Corey Seager. Whenever you
been
talked about
good.
Corey Seager as a Dodger fan, you always said a fully healthy Corey Seager because he is great, but he is made of glass. His long ass hamstrings have no fat on them to protect them. So he seems to be doing okay. I haven't heard about any injuries happening this year, but like a fully healthy Corey Seager is a thing to behold. He's not always fully healthy.
I think he's almost at like 30 homers, and it just amazes
Awesome.
me how his home run count is like that high. Like he just, I don't know, he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy.
He's a rubber band. He's just a rubber
I was gonna
band.
say, great hips, man.
okay,
When he opens it up,
proposition.
beautiful.
Corey Seager and Zion Williamson start hanging out, and maybe everything will just balance itself out.
Oh my lord! But what if it just snowballs into just catastrophe?
Then it
Can we
would
get
be
Christian McCaffrey there too? Just everybody all at once.
Whoa. Relax,
Just have a round table of them.
relax.
yeah. Let's get the injury proneness roundtable. That I feel like either way it'd be pretty funny.
It's true.
I'm just saying Kyle
If you
could
know, you know.
have given his brother some of his ass and everything would have been better, but he's not using it now. He's retired. Give it to him. It's fine.
R.I.P. my infield full of Seagers dream.
Dude,
Do they have-
the
do they have a
20
cousin?
They have
Huh?
another brother that's a first baseman, so it would have been Kyle, Corey, and then the brother.
No.
What's
the
this
Watts
brother's
man.
name? Is he any good?
I think he was in single A last I checked.
I thought he was out by now. I thought he'd already retired. I don't know.
If you got to
Well, we
say
could have
the
had, like-
brother,
We could have had Turners on one side and maybe Seegers on the other. I'm just saying.
Justin Seager has been retired for 5 years.
Yeah, he's not in it anymore. He's not a player anymore.
If we got the Seagers on one side and the Turners on the other, we need Jeremy Frank to help us with the trivia there if that's ever happened.
I just don't want to hear like Charlie Steiner try to call that game because no one would have the right name.
Can the Rogerses be pitching?
Please.
Oh my!
And can we
Lord.
have Laz
They're
Diaz?
cooked.
Can we have Laz Diaz and Elias Diaz behind the plate, and he just doesn't know who's the umpire and who's the catcher? Like,
Will Smith thrown to Will Smith?
exactly.
Just
Let's
go
just-
all out. Just go crazy.
Yeah, next
Like-
year, forget the All-Star game. We're going with names.
Exactly.
Yeah, instead of the home run derby in the All-Star game, the name game and the bunt contest.
So, as a baseball historian, they used to have crazy things like this. It wasn't always the All-Star game, but they used to have like precision hitting contests and stuff like that. Like they used to have like literally targets out in the field where you could like go and hit it. And there's a TV show, I cannot remember the name of it, but they would have like all-stars jump in and they would do like shooting gallery games with bats and stuff like that, and like, you know, throwing games and things like that. So there's absolutely precedent for really fun stuff like that. And I did the All-Star. Actually, I was going to show you guys one of the free gifts. If you went to the All-Star game here, was actually a replica of the All-Star game ring. If you want to
Oh yeah, I got that.
see.
Too.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
it's
cool.
a little more class ring Jostens than I expected, especially after seeing some of the World Series rings. But it's a really cool thing. But the Futures game was way more fun than the All-Star.
Oh no, tell me
Yeah.
about it. Tell me about it. I actually got to meet
oh, yeah.
the only Cubs prospect who was playing was Pete Crow Armstrong. I got to meet his parents, which was
Oh, nice.
really awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Nice. And
That game was
honestly,
exhilarating.
the celebrity softball game was a little more fun than.
Oh my god, I wasn't there, but I heard.
Ooh.
Only
Joe
when Bad
Shiva
Bunny
is
was
the
batting.
best hitter on the
Oh,
planet.
well, Bad Bunny, Big Papi came out and hit for him. He had people like coming out for him. It was great. We did have
Oh.
one girl rush the field and try and get to Bad Bunny, and but no, it was great. It was a fun atmosphere and stuff like that. But like the All-Star game itself was kind of like, that's cool, but no one's gonna ruin their career trying to make an amazing play on the All-Star game, right?
I-
So
Again, I think Bud Selig had the right idea. The All-Star game should have stakes.
yeah.
Yes, I was going
Make
to
it
say
worth
I missed when it
something.
mattered.
I mean, Rob Manfred making a bad call is what, par for the course. So
Yeah, I think home field advantage for the All-Star game was a bad idea.
but
That was a
some
bit
sort-
much, but
That was a
some
bit-
sort
yeah,
of.
money.
that
they
was
like,
Yeah.
irritating.
People like
103
money.
win Cubs not getting home field advantage.
like,
I
I
could have
feel
been at
like-
Game 7, man.
I mean, there's like some. I think they
Have
should play
better All Stars.
the All-Star game should be played like a real game.
Yeah,
Like
I don't.
the
I don't
starter
think,
should go a few innings.
My
Yeah.
thing is then if you make it to where it has incentive, you should no longer be doing the every team gets a guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
Then you're not
terrible
putting
rule.
your
for
best
sure.
team. Then you're not putting
For
your best
sure.
team out there if it has to mean something. Now it's like, yeah, whatever. Put whoever you want in.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Put
not
Joe
what I said on
Mantiply
Twitter
in
when
there.
Dylan Cease didn't get in. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it's like for
I
now,
mean,
whatever.
Dodger Will Smith and Freddie Freeman sat out the All-Star
Yeah,
game.
so
So
if
is
there's
it
no
the
incentive,
All-Star game?
yeah.
That's not to
So-
downplay the guys who made it because they are clearly great players and like, but it's the same thing. It's like if it's going to be the Oscars, which even the Oscars aren't the Oscars, we can get into that later. But like, you know, I will say this about Bud Selig. I don't think he was a great commissioner. He at least liked baseball.
I think
And I
that feels like the pretty common thing about
Yeah.
Selig versus Manfred at this
Yeah.
point is like who actually likes baseball. But Joseph, I think you haven't gone for winners and losers. Your thoughts?
Winners, Seattle, clearly. Had a great trade deadline. They're probably the 1B to Houston's 1A out west. Losers, just for not selling, San Francisco. You clearly are not going to compete with the Dodgers and Padres going forward. Just build that farm up and wait a few years.
I mean, they
And
traded
try
for JD
again.
Davis, didn't they? Like they did a trade with
Darren Ruff,
Darren
JD
Ruff,
Davis,
JD
and then
Davis,
another
and a
prospect
couple three
coming to
pitchers.
San Francisco.
Three pitchers. It looks
That is
like,
a
plus JD
hey, we
Davis.
did something trade.
Boy,
Yeah, but you
yeah,
could have
they-
gotten something for Rodon. You could have gotten something for Peterson.
I was thinking, yeah, like the
Peterson doesn't
Giants
want
were
to
like
go anywhere.
the Giants were in the unique position of you could justify them buying or selling, but they really didn't do either. I mean, they kind of sold, but you know, they still.
They
most
just
of the
made it. They
team-
made a lot of trades. Trevor Rosenthal went to the Brewers.
Mhm.
Yeah, but like that's like more minor stuff. Like you talking
Yeah.
like stuff that moves the needle, even just a little bit. You know, like
Yeah.
kind of what the Phillies did. They're in a pretty similar spot buying for a wild card. And you just compare those two, and it's vast.
Yeah, similar to what the noted last place Red Sox did.
Yes.
They just
Noted.
kind of
Yeah, they were just all over the
it's
joint.
like so funny that the Red Sox are in last place. I love it so much.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be
At
funny when all
500
these
too,
little
are they-
moves.
Are they still at
Happy-
500? Like what?
they're
but at the same time, what a division! Like when your
Yeah,
last
I
place
know.
person is at 500.
And you
Oh
expect
my
Baltimore
gosh.
to I think like Baltimore trading like Baltimore made the right call.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
teams in the hunt for the wild card in the AL selling. It's like, you know, it was quite the extravaganza. And then you have like the White Sox who are like about the same as both of them, and they kind of bought, didn't really sell.
See,
It's
that's
just all over the
why
place.
I'm
Wait.
surprised we got through winners and losers without the White Sox being.
I didn't
mentioned.
want to.
I
Like, I didn't want
almost
to be
said
that
the
guy.
White
I didn't wanna be
Because
that
they
guy.
did
I almost said
nothing.
the White Sox.
I felt that was too easy of an
This is
answer.
the Laz
Because-
White Sox
Right.
rant timer.
I'm surprised. I keep saying I'm too apathetic to care, and then I go on rants like every single time.
It brings out your true colors.
I don't think I
It
could.
does. It just
Who's even
For-
still on the White Sox right now? Like I.
listen.
Well, my thing with Chicago is like 2021 was your best chance to
You
do
know-
something, and this year you had to do like a Brave style buy last year to like
Right.
make it worth it to justify this rebuild, and you didn't do that.
You just didn't. Well, you didn't do anything.
Well,
Like,
someone in Chicago won the $1 billion Powerball, so hopefully, maybe
Hopefully.
They
they'll-
can buy out TLR.
I'm just saying, if you're out there and you're listening, winner, you've got a public service.
Also,
you can provide.
invest in Diamond
I mean-
Digest.
Realistically, and like this, as much as it sounds like a joke, and it's not, I feel like you can't be confident as a White Sox fan with La Russa in the dugout. No matter like,
No, you can't.
there's like you have to make a lot of moves and do a lot of things where you can feel okay with that man like making decisions with what's going to happen. And I mean, Laz, you obviously know better. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it's just like it's a scary thought knowing he's like behind whatever's going to happen.
I wish I could tell you were wrong. It's a flawed roster. Don't get me wrong. It is a flawed
Right.
roster
Mhm.
that needs some retooling in the offseason. It's clearly shown, like, whatever happened last year, like the team just stopped hitting home runs. So at the end of the day, not doing anything at the deadline, like let's just say they went out and got like Ian Happ. Ian Happ doesn't fix the fact that like all of the power hitters forgot how to hit home runs. Like he doesn't fix the true issues on the team. But at the same time, to do nothing kind of signals that in the middle of your contention window, you're fine with just, we'll get whatever we get out of this season and then maybe retool in the offseason. Like, don't waste any prospects now. We might use them in the offseason, which is, it sounds okay, but you just don't punt seasons in the middle of your contention window. Like, yeah,
And I feel like
Yeah,
in
that's what
theory that
Atlanta
works.
did last
You
year.
can't
They
even,
hot
like-
low on Soler and Rosario, and I hate Eddie Rosario with a burning passion, and Soler won World Series MVP.
Right. It's like you can't just punt seasons in the middle of your window. Like that's the issue. If this was like 2020 and they weren't really sure, it's kind of the start of everything. All right, whatever. I'm not going to get that mad. But it's like it's 2022. This was World Series expectations time, and you just did nothing. Like
Hey,
especially
Gandalf.
waiting for next year too, like when nothing happened at this deadline, like you have no idea what direction they're going to go in. Where at least
You
like if
have
they're
to-
trying to make some moves now, you can see like, all right, this is kind of what we wanted to do. It didn't work out. We made the offers, but it's like when nothing happens and they're not in the news, you're like, well, if they're not going to do it now, what are they going to do next?
And then just by playing in the Central, you're automatic contenders at this point
Yeah.
too, so
Right.
they can get away
That's
with
huge.
it.
It's a huge boost. You're
Which
gonna
is
be playing like
probably why they did it the way they did it. They probably just said, we can get away with it and it's fine or whatever. Tevi, I think you're on mute. I see you talking, but you're not saying.
I was.
There we go.
All right, I didn't want to burp in your ear. I was trying to be nice. No, I'm looking at their active roster. It's insane. They have one left-handed bat and like what, 2 switch hitters?
Yeah.
One left-handed bat and 2 switches. They
Yeah.
also have AJ Pollock, which I forgot about. My heart.
I mean,
But like, it's not a bad roster. Like Abreu, Anderson, Engel, like Hendricks, Kelly. I mean, Cueto. But like they have. I mean, Grandal is. They have a playable roster. It's just.
Laz's Cease narrative is coming true, and the gods are punishing them.
Yes.
I mean,
It's like that little what's the meme where it's like, what did it cost you? Everything? Like,
Yeah.
I got my Cease narrative, but it cost me the rest of the White
That's like
Sox
the scourge of every
And, like,
baseball
honestly,
fan ever.
they're so poorly managed.
Help me,
Like,
Shane
Tony-
McClanahan. You're my only hope.
Don't you dare! I
Tony
need
La
this
Russa
Cease more
managing
than
the White
anything
Sox is a lot like Jimmy Carter being president now.
But how do you only have one
Okay, but
left
what about
bat?
this?
How?
What if we
That's the
trade the
issue.
number one prospect in the White Sox system and La Russa to the Rays for Kevin Cash? Would that solve everything? I would
It's
do
like a
that
manager
deal.
dump
As
right
long
there.
as
That's
you
an
don't
interesting deal.
as long as you don't put Austin Barnes in as a pinch, you'll fine.
It's just like, but like at the end. So what it comes down to at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you have 3 left-handed bats in the lineup, 2 switch hitters, 1 left-handed. But Gavin Sheets isn't a true left-handed bat.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of left-handed options. Like AJ Pollock, they brought in, and the rationale, which I agreed with at the time, was he hits right-hander as well. You don't necessarily
Yeah.
just need left-handed bats.
You need people who hit. Yeah,
You
exactly.
got guys that hit right-hander as well, and he hasn't been doing that either. So it's like, when it comes down to it, yeah, sure, maybe they get a Jock Peterson, like a true platoon guy at the trade deadline, or they get a David Peralta, another
Yeah.
true platoon. But it
But
doesn't
Pollock is a
fix-
platoon guy. Like that's what he did for the Dodgers.
Right, but he's like, either way, he's had good splits against both righties and lefties. So it's like,
Yeah,
you
that's
shouldn't
true.
have to treat him as a platoon guy.
Yeah.
But even if you got that platoon guy that you're missing right now, it wasn't going to change the crux of the issues with the team. And I think my only rationale for kind of who I can, I mean, maybe it's the bias, but who I can, like some of the true losers of the deadline, is the only rationale I can see for this team and Rakan and company was, listen, we're just not going to, we don't like the prices on these guys that we're looking at. We'll see what we get this year, and then we might just have to rethink this whole thing in the offseason. We might have to trade an Eloy Jimenez in the offseason. We might have to think about moving on from Tim Anderson and trying to see if we can move him elsewhere. We might have to trade a big name from this core, retool the core, and figure it out from there. Like, that's where it may make more sense 6 months from now, but it'll still be the question of you still shouldn't punt in the middle of a contention window.
I say
Yeah,
this
you're
team needs
getting-
Ehrman Mercedes back.
Yeah.
I'll say
feel like
I
you're
did.
getting-
I
I feel
did
like you're
just.
getting to the point where where
I was gonna
All
say
right,
I'll
go.
I was
Or did
saying
you go?
yeah,
You
go for it.
go. No, you go.
Oh,
The
mine's a
problems
dumb
with having
joke.
6 people on this.
I know. I'm trying to find my windows. I can't. I'll just finish up right here. I was gonna say I feel like you're getting to the point where they really went all in on this core, which was smart because their farm system was like incredible when back in 2018. You look at those teams, you look at those farms, they were unbelievable. But now you're to the point where you know more about these players, and it's getting to the point where I think a lot of this is in the coaching. I think a lot of this is in like how they want these players to approach these play appearances. But they have a type.
100%.
I mean, you look at these guys. They have the highest chase percentage in baseball, and that's not just that ripples out. I mean, Tim Anderson, Eloy, Robert, these guys swing at everything outside the strike zone, and I mean they're still good players because of it. But they have drawbacks, and we've obviously seen how that's affected them this year. Maybe it'll get better. It's certainly possible. I think this team is still well within the contention for the AL Central, but you're getting to the point where you have to consider kind of how you want to approach this core that you really went all in on, because you're never going to get like call everyone up and that's it. That's going to be the team that takes you to the World Series. There's always going to be tweaks here and there. There's always going to be sacrifices. Always going to be guys you're going to get that are surprising. There's always that level of uncertainty that kind of takes you to the promised land, and that's kind of what that's basically they're reaching that breaking point where they're going to need to start evaluating that more intelligently, or at least more than they have already.
It's a very interesting team to where you look at, I mean, for the most part, every single team kind of did what we assumed they would do at the break. Teams that stood pat, teams that went and bought, teams that went and sold, like everyone kind of did what we expected, except for the White Sox, really. Maybe the Cubs didn't sell off maybe teams didn't sell off as much. Maybe teams didn't buy as much. But directionally, everyone picked the lane we expected.
Exactly.
And it felt like, except for the Sox at the end of the day. And I think there was frustration expressed by the front office. Don't get me wrong. But you still got to
they're in charge.
You got to execute.
Yeah.
In some form or fashion, you have to execute at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, the thing I was looking up, I was going to see how long Tony La Russa's contract was.
It's 3 years.
Well, but when I did Tony La Russa, it autofilled Tony La Russa asleep. Tony La Russa sleeping in dugout, and I was just
my Lord.
oh, I'm so sorry.
Google Trends, beautiful thing.
What a joy.
Year 2 of 3, only one more.
And then everyone's not going to be under contract anymore.
Yeah, and then you got to worry about you've missed part of the core.
They gave so many of their guys extensions. I mean, it is ridiculous. You look.
They did give a lot of extensions, so it kind of helps. But like Grandal, Abreu, Giolito to an extent.
Be old.
Like this was the 3 years, and like 2021 was fun, underachieved. 2022, I have not had fun watching.
I mean, are they
Yeah,
a 500 team if they're not in the Central?
No,
absolutely.
They would. I don't think they would be, but they wouldn't be like significantly under either.
No, it's
like,
just This seems just not. It's not fun for fans to watch currently, which is probably the most frustrating aspect. You can underachieve and still be fun.
Do you think they could still sign Michael Jordan?
Yeah, let's see what would happen if they
get him some. What is it? The juice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
secret stuff.
Space
exactly.
Stuff, exactly. Secret stuff. That's what it was.
Last year, I mean, you look at like last year when they made the playoffs, it felt like they didn't have the legs to compete with like the Astros or like who they were going to shape or match up against. But I mean, like you look back on that now and you're like I would have taken a much different stance. I would have been like, anything can happen. Because if you look at this team, it's worlds different from last year. Last year, their team stats were phenomenal. And they were really injured. You gotta throw that in there, but they were still performing really well as a team, and it reflects that more than in the record alone. But and now it's worlds different. It puts things into perspective more.
Last year, I thought they were going to the World Series.
We've talked about
I
the
thought
White
they'd
Sox
get bounced
for
by
20
Houston.
minutes.
I was pretty sure, but
okay,
no.
we have to check baseball news.
Oh, we do.
Vin
someone else is
Scully
doing that for
passed
me.
away.
No.
Did he
What?
really?
No.
What?
No.
Oh no!
Oh,
No!
What?
Oh my God.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
no.
No!
Wow.
Oh man, that is a killer.
No.
That is a killer.
No, I genuinely thought you were joking.
Yeah, for those who may not have caught that,
Oh,
Vince passed away according to, excuse me, Robert Murray.
Well, Dodgers tweeted out.
And the Dodgers
Yeah.
tweeted out as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so the Dodgers did
it's on
tweet it out as well.
3 minutes
So-
ago.
Man, that is a
So-
killer.
Wow.
God, he is the reason why I'm a Dodgers fan.
He's the reason why everyone's a baseball fan. Let's be honest. Some
Yeah.
factor. He plays
Yeah.
some
He is
factor.
the single best broadcaster
Yeah.
to ever
No,
live.
Yeah.
I had this. I had a leatherworking business, and I just got so sick of podcasts. I just put on the games, and I'd always liked baseball. I played softball growing up. You know, Braves, Cubs were always in my life, but like he talked about the cotton candy skies, and like
He made it magical.
he and I remember because I listened for a long time before I actually made it to Dodger Stadium, and I walked in and I was like, that's the guy that Vin was talking about, and I love the players instantly because of who he made them be. Oh my god! Oh
His
my
final
Well,
send
not
off
only that, but
like late 2016 was like so him. It was like so everything he was. It was like perfect. I would listen to that for like years after he said it. It was that good.
every game he called, you do 3 innings on the radio. If you go to Dodger Stadium during that time, everyone, first inning, busts out their radio, turns it on, and you just kind of watch the game live and listen to Vin call it. It was beautiful. It's perfect. It's what baseball is at its purest. And
Yeah.
I will always cherish those days. I really will.
Yeah.
But I do have
Well,
a quick
good
anecdote
first show.
before we go.
I was gonna say that.
We used to have Top Deck season tickets, and Steve Lyons would come visit some of the people who had season tickets up there. So if you remember, he did For the Love of the Game with Vin Scully.
That's the
So-
show I was trying to think of. Yeah.
My dad goes to talk to Steve Lyons one day, and he doesn't ask him like any baseball questions about his career or the team because he was calling games for the Dodgers at the time. He talks to him about For the Love of the Game, and he asked, he's like, "Hey, was there a script for the game, like when you were calling it or anything?" And Steve says, "No, that was Vin Scully through and through. Everything he said was just pure off the cuff, like he's calling a baseball game, and that was poetic." Towards the end of the movie, knowing that it was his words, not a screenwriter's. It was Vin Scully's words. And I think that just kind of summarizes it better than anything.
hmm
I think when you think about it, if you were to poll any general baseball fan, not even just Dodgers fans, just what Vin Scully means to them, if you probably ask some broadcasters why they got into the game, like I guarantee at least a handful of them, if not much, much more, will say some sort of story regarding listening to Vin Scully or seeing what Vin Scully had to say about a baseball game. I think the impact he has had is only going to be shown more in kind of what we hear over the coming days and weeks as this news sorts of spreads and people get to reflect more on the situation. But I can't imagine there are too many baseball fans who don't have at least some sort of thing that made them connect with Vin Scully or something that they appreciate about the way he called games or the way he just appreciated baseball in general. And I think, it's hard for us to, when you do a podcast, to react to something that's shocking live.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I don't expect anyone to have the right frame of mind nor the right words, especially two Dodgers fans who grew up listening to him. The people who would, if we were to do this 2-3 days from now, might have some words. But at this point, I mean, there's nothing you can say that really handles the situation and handles what Vin Scully means to Dodgers fans, to baseball accurately or in a way that does justice to the person Vin Scully is. And I'm sure this is something that you'll see articles, you'll see tweets, Facebook posts, whatever. You'll see plenty of love and appreciation over the coming days for Vin Scully. And it's like I said, it's hard to react live to something like that. And it's just devastating news for the Dodgers family, baseball family in general. And it's a somber way to end a podcast, but I think and I hope that as we continue to do things, as days continue, that people will pour their hearts out in terms of what Vin Scully has meant to them. And I trust that, we have a place with podcasts. We have a place with articles. We will continue to hear the Vin Scully stories. And I hope you all take the opportunity over the coming days, weeks, as more come out to reflect on them, add your own as baseball fans, as baseball writers, as people who have a passion for broadcasting in general. And I think that's really the only proper way to handle something of this magnitude in such an unexpected way for all of us. So that will do it for us. We started with the trade deadline, and I think it's more fitting that we kind of just end here and say, rest in peace to Vin Scully.
A very pleasant evening to you, wherever you may be.
Yes. Tavi, thank you for joining us for the first time. Sam, Steven, Joe, Joseph, Jordan Zowski signing off. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks as always for your
80% less
support.
crying from me next time.
But I do appreciate the live reaction, but also it's tough to handle something like this. So thank you all for listening. We'll talk to you soon. And like we said, rest in peace, Vin Scully. Take care, everyone.